Hello.
Right.
You're joining us on United We Stand sessions. I'm Christina Tobin with Free and Equal Elections. We do this every week. And this week, a topic I am super, super passionate about, as well as the Free and Equal Elections team, is opening the presidential debates. We have Eli Beckerman. Eli, welcome of Open the Debates to the sessions.
Good to be with you again.
You're right. Make America debate again. I love that hat. It's good to see you. It's actually nice to see somebody on live stream that I've actually met in person finally a couple times. So, and I didn't know there was anybody out there that was maybe as much or even more passionate about opening the debates, probably equally. Eli, thank you for all of your hard work towards helping to open our debates. And you were a vital role in making sure that we co-hosted a debate together this past March at Chicago Hilton. Let our viewers know who you are and why you're so passionate and the founder of Open the Debates, towards opening the debates, that is passionate.
Yeah, and I should throw out a shout out to George Farah, who wrote the book Open Debates, or he wrote the book called No Debate, but it was the book about the Commission on Presidential Debates and just how corrupt the whole thing is. And you know, I was for probably around a decade trying to build the Green Party as an alternative party to the two-party duopoly, and through that experience, I just got clearer and clearer on how the game is set up in a way that it's really meant to shut out outside voices and anyone who really isn't part of this duopoly. And over time, I kind of shifted into more cross-partisan work, and it was the debate issue that got me thinking in a nonpartisan, cross-partisan way, just looking at it from a principled standpoint. What is it that the American people want? What do we need if we're going to have a healthy self-government? And clearly, we need to hear from our options that are on the ballot. And this is just one of these issues that I think when you look more closely at it, it really exposes the entire lie that we have a democracy in this country, and the way in which the game is rigged is something that I think people have a feeling that it's rigged, but they don't understand the ways in which it is. And increasingly, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, I think people have gotten much more clarity on precisely the ways in which it's rigged and the kinds of things that you can do to sort of unrig it. And so I've been working at Open the Debates since 2012, since Gary Johnson and Jill Stein were shut out of the first round of debates back then. And you know, it's Free and Equal that has run alternative debates that have an attempt at serving the American people, but the Republicans and Democrats just, you know, are going to do everything they can to ignore any sort of alternative debate structure that's more inclusive. And so I think, you know, the challenge is on us, and it's on everyone who's watching, to think creatively about the issue of debates and really think about it from the perspective of what power do we have. I think a lot of the framing is often meant to sort of disempower us, and we take away our own agency in, you know, what is it that we want? What is it that, as an electorate, what are we looking for? I think people are looking for a healthy conversation, for a fair conversation, for a meaningful conversation, for meaningful digging into the issues and possible policies and approaches to address these issues. And it's clear there's so much criticism of the Commission on Presidential Debates. There's so much criticism of the political debates across the board that our country seems to have, even at the local level. What is it that we might do differently? So it's great to have met you in December, and I've followed your work for years. And you know, I think right now is this window of opportunity where the standard audiences are kind of tuning in and they're outraged. So right now you have supporters of the Libertarian Party and their presidential nominee, Joe Jorgensen. You have the Green Party supporters and supporters of their candidate, Howie Hawkins. To a lesser extent, the Constitution Party and Don Blankenship supporters. There are other candidates that are out there, and they're just kind of paying attention now to the debate issue in a way that it's sort of short-lived. There's this surge of attention on the issue, and then the candidates end their campaigns, and then the energy goes away. So I think Open the Debates has tried to work across the political spectrum more strategically than that, and thinking, how can the Green Party and the Libertarian Party, who get so worked up about this issue every 4 years, how can they work together, collaborate where they need to, even if they don't agree on all issues. So I think, again, Free and Equal has been there as this sort of lone voice since George Farah's group wound down some years ago. Free and Equal has really been the only organization that's taken this on, in addition to Peter Ackerman's group, Change the Rule, focused on the 15% rule and a legal fight against the commission. And, I think what we did in March, we had an open debate, and it was a totally different kind of thing. And it was across the political spectrum. You had Greens and Libertarians, but you had Democrats, you had people from all walks of life really coming together and having a cross-partisan conversation that was like nothing I had ever seen before. It was almost mind-blowing, because we never hear a thoughtful, respectful conversation like that. So thanks for your great moderation of that event, and for putting your name out there, and your tireless work to come up with some way for us as a nation to come together around the issue of debates in a way that is meaningful for people.
Eli, I appreciate your words, but I have to say, I don't think that was our first debate we did before the primary. And as you know, we anticipate maybe 6 or 8 candidates would confirm, 4, and suddenly we had 18 and even more, probably 10 or a dozen, and wow, I mean, what a compliment. And we made it work. We separated into 2 debates, 9 candidates each. So about 10 hours of moderating, but you were the glue, right hand, I'll tell you. And it has really helped pave the way for, I think, a debate potentially this fall, if not this cycle, definitely very likely the next cycle, for a debate to expand beyond free and equal elections and open the debate. So thank you for being that bridge in us really co-producing that debate in March. It took a lot of trust, when you're doing something solo from 08, 12, 16, and politics, you got to be a little tough. I'm not really made for it. I've become made for it, I suppose, but it's a little harsh. I really like more of the technology side and the arts, but it's a duty. And I loved that we were able to bring such a diverse group, 18 candidates, like whether they were completely anarchist or completely socialist, they were respectful towards each other. And I think that is the key in order to unite our country, is to have that respect, understanding those conversations that bring about solutions. So Eli, thank you. And of course, the entire Free and Equal Elections team. We could not have done it. You saw them on the ground, and they're ramping up for another topic, our United We Stand tour this fall. We're moving forward with at least 1 or 2 stops. And we're moving forward with another presidential debate. Honored, Eli, to team up again with Open the Debates we'll be having October 8th in Denver, Colorado. We'll keep it to just candidates and the core production team for now, but we're going to push it from the live stream promotion angle hardcore, as we released footage from all of different candidates from this March debate strategically before the October 8th debate in Denver. So we'll at least do one this fall. Who knows? If the people want more and supporters want more, we could do more than one, but definitely one this fall, October 8th.
Great. Yeah, I think that there's something about, I think that part of how Free and Equal was able to pull this off was people looked to Free and Equal as this trusted trusted institution that has put this out there so consistently, even beyond just presidential debates, trying to do Senate level debates and other statewide debates. I think all of the attention goes to the presidential debates and what the commission has done. But as I was able to spend around a year and a half full time on the issue, I really saw just how pervasive exclusionary political debates really were. And it was something that happens at the local level in a way that people don't have a clue how insidious it is and how bad faith it is. Like these media organizations, for the most part, that they appoint themselves as these gatekeepers, and they come up with criteria. So let's say you have 10 candidates on the ballot, but these media organizations come up with criteria that is very self-serving. So they're going to say, well, this candidate has to raise $100,000 or $250,000 to demonstrate that they're a serious campaign. And they know that what that candidate's going to do with that campaign cash is they're going to buy political ads in that media space. And so it's like the criteria for ballot access are actually more exclusionary in the US than they are in the rest of the world. So they're already incredibly exclusionary. Some places in the US are better than others, but at least the ballot access laws are somewhat theoretically democratically accountable. So we can, vote these people out of office and change the ballot access rules. But it's a law that's on the books, and there's this extra layer of it that makes it hard for people to understand how it happens. But these gatekeepers inserting themselves into the equation, and they're going to decide who gets media coverage. They're going to decide who do you include in the polls. And leading up to a debate, it's a very important time to frame a political contest. And if the media decided that they were going to, actually tell people about all of their ballot choices, then the conversation broadly would be very different. And then once the debate takes place, if it's an exclusionary debate, then that sets it for them. So the framing is set, and it's if it's a two-way race with 5 candidates, but all of the talk is about the 2 candidates and the horse race between them, then good luck if you're in 3rd place and you're polling at 7%. People don't see you as a viable candidate, and you're not getting the fundraising that you might get if you were treated differently. So I think there have been examples where debates got opened up, and all of a sudden it totally transformed the landscape of what people saw as a viable candidate. And all of a sudden the types of discussions were changing, the issues that came into play were dramatically different. And it's the other piece of it is how hard these gatekeepers have to work. And the gatekeepers are the political duopoly themselves. They're very much part of keeping it so that the conversation is just sort of an automatic, well, we live in a 2-party system. The Constitution kind of sets it in place. There's nothing you can really do about it. Yeah, sure, the spoiler problem and lesser evilism is maybe it's not an ideal thing, but it's just kind of, we live in a system and there's nothing you can do about it. That conversation is a fraud itself. And so I think, over time we're effectively changing that narrative. But it's really got to take a behavioral change. It's got to take a reassessment psychologically for all of us. Who am I going to vote for? What does it mean? If a pollster calls me and asks me who I plan to vote for on election day, maybe I don't support Joe Jorgensen politically, but maybe I tell that pollster Joe Jorgensen so that it pushes her up over that 15% threshold. There are all sorts of things we can do, I think, to sort of reframe the way we're talking about these important contests.
Yeah, it's so corrupt. You mentioned George Farah earlier, and I sat next to him in an interview in 2008, Al Jazeera Live, and I met him through Independent Ralph Nader, served as Ralph Nader's National Ballot Access Coordinator, seen firsthand the hurdles, just even on the ballot access side, to keep an independent candidate off the ballot. And George Farah, yeah, he's done some great work, and grateful for that. We have stuck it through. Putting on an action debate, as you've experienced this past March, is a lot more work than you could ever anticipate. I mean, I know we've already spoken that off. But gosh, you did it. We did it, and we're ready to do it again. The corruption of the Commission on Presidential Debates, it really ties around a grand illusion, right? The grand illusion, the myth of voter choice in a two-party, really one-party tyranny, one-party duopoly, is what we have. And it's by no chance, well, I do recall that is Ralph Nader telling me, Christina, do you know what's the most powerful tool? I can't really do a Ralph Nader impression. Some people can, but the most powerful tool that the two-party system uses to control us into creating this false illusion that there's only two parties. And this was back in 2008, and I was maybe in my mid-20s, mid-late 20s, and I'm like, what, Ralph? He goes, the Commission on Presidential Debates. And I have this light bulb go off in my head, like, what's that? And he said, it's run by the corrupt, the former, that is, chairs of the Democratic Republican Party. And he educated me how the League of Women Voters retracted their support from the CPD, I think it was in 1988, stating the league stated that the CPD has perpetuated a fraud on the American voters. And that's what it is. That platform is a fraudulent platform. And so, as challenging as it has been to put on presidential debates, and we are the only platform that's nationally televised as far as debates outside of the CPD, it was a calling, it was a duty to do this for the people. I knew and felt there would come a day and a time in history where we would need to unite more than ever. And so our team is ramping up at a level almost like before, like we were in 14, and before we had a setback by the system, but we've prevailed from that. And I'm excited to see where the journey takes us into the United We Stand toward this fall presidential debate and the launch, the very beginning, launch 1.0 of our blockchain election system app. So Eli, as you know, we'll be putting all this information. In fact, we have supporters. I know Jessica, Sam, and they're helping to edit. Like, thank you so much for supporting and volunteering all the videos from the presidential candidates, various ones. And we'll be taking that information from those debates and symposiums and the United We Stand sessions and implementing that into the blockchain app, which will start by launching all candidates running for Congress in 2022. We hope to have a polling of whether it's approval voting, score voting, instant runoff voting, star voting this October 8th at the debate, but we'll do what we can and make it happen depending on the support that we get. So Peter Ackerman, way to go pursuing the Commission on Presidential Debates. Thank you, Peter, for doing that. We really need to put that lawsuit on a national spotlight, particularly before this election as you're going to the Supreme Court. We would love for that to be a big part of our debate this October 8th. And also we're open to open, that is, free and equal elections, and open the debates, Eli. I mean, open to uniting with hundreds of more, if not even more than that, like-minded organizations for our debate fall. Right, Eli?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's this groundswell out there that it's sort of getting reported, and the story is starting to be told. There's a movie, Slay the Dragon, about the effort in Michigan to fight gerrymandering. There's all this stuff bubbling up from across the country, of people who do not see themselves as part of the two-party game. So, there are these there have always been these sort of democracy reform efforts that have been hitched to the Democratic Party in one way or another. And I think there's this growing clarity from outside the two-party duopoly and from people just not looking at it from a hyper-partisan perspective and just looking at what is it that we need in a healthy political system. And this stuff is starting to grow and get traction. And there are these groups and alliances of organizations that are coming together with a real clear-headed analysis. I think a lot of this was sparked by a 2017 Harvard Business School study. Catherine Gale and Michael Porter laid it out, assessing the politics industry. And luckily, there's it's out in book form as of June. And
I have it.
it's such a clear-headed take on exactly what the system is, how it operates, how it is that you have the politics industry. So their framing of it is really helpful for understanding behind the scenes just how this works. And what they did was they used Michael Porter's famous 5 forces analysis of how any industry functions in terms of competition and what are the different forces at play. And when they looked at the politics industry, they probably looked at it with this thinking that maybe it was a duopoly to begin with, but it fit the exact mode of a classic business duopoly. And you have these self-interested players they're part of profiting from this industry. And that's what it is. That's what we're working with. We're not working with a political system. We're working with a political industry. And so they frame it as the political industrial complex. They frame it very explicitly as the two-party duopoly. And, they're not stuck on just an analysis to better understand the corruption. They're really focused, and I think the book lays this out even more clearly. They're focused on political innovation as this really important solution to the problem. And so, the way you mentioned approval voting and score voting and star voting and ranked choice voting, I think, that's one area where people have been increasingly realizing that we need to talk about what these solutions are and figure out ways of getting them implemented at the local level. I find myself fortunate to live in Massachusetts. I think we're primed to be the second state to follow Maine's lead and adopting ranked choice voting for most elections in Massachusetts. This wave is growing and people are getting their heads around it. Another thing that Catherine Gale and Michael Porter are really persuasive on is this concept of, they call it political philanthropy. And the idea is, if you look at the philanthropy industry or the size and scope of where people are giving their charitable giving and philanthropic dollars and the kinds of impacts that they want. But when you take that and compare it to the size of what our government is doing and the scale of those budgets, philanthropic dollars are really minuscule. And so if you want to have any prayer of kind of forging the just world that we want to see, and I don't mean that just in terms of like what government can do to give us justice. I mean it in terms of what is government doing that is totally unjust? How are they wasting our tax dollars? How are they going off and starting wars that don't have popular support? There are all sorts of ways that our political industry and the government that it has captured are not serving our needs, and they're doing things that we wouldn't lend our name to, but we're lending our tax dollars to all the time. So if you align your philanthropic giving with what you really want to see change in this world, you really have to wonder, like, what maybe it's worth putting a little bit more money in the space of nonpartisan reform. So the one organization that is one of these alliances that I was alluding to is the National Association of Nonpartisan Reformers. And after the Harvard Business School study, they kind of started to talk to each other, different organizations that have been working on different aspects of political reform, they started talking to each other and they realized they needed to convene these nonprofit groups that were kind of seeing different parts of this problem. And I think that the Gail Porter study really gave that organization clarity on the kinds of solutions that we should be pursuing, and that it's important. Even if you think that ranked choice voting is the most important thing, you're going to work with people that are working on approval voting. So Fair Vote and the Center for Election Science are both part of NANNER, we like to call it. And you know, it's really like there's an increasing trend of realizing that we all have to work together here. I have never seen debates as a silver bullet. I happen to see it as a really underappreciated strategic leverage point, and the political reform movement, for whatever reason, hasn't taken it up in a very serious way. And that's kind of what I was trying to do with Open the Debates, is move the analysis of exclusionary political debates to the forefront. I think it's one of these weird areas where the duopoly actually doesn't have any defenses. The only way they get away with this stuff is that people don't know what's happening. They don't know how it happens. And if you ask the American people, like, do you want to see presidential debates, for example, in 2016, the question was asked, if the candidate is on a majority of state ballots, should they be included in the presidential debates? And it wasn't even close. It was 76% to 17% that said, yeah, open the debates. It would have meant opening it up to 2 more candidates. So Gary Johnson and Jill Stein would have been included. The impact that Gary Johnson and Jill Stein had on the end result is something, you know, that we can all debate. I think they clearly actually played a role in what the end result of the election was. Labeling them spoiler without ever having given them a platform to begin with for putting their viewpoints out there is absurd. And when the corruption is so obvious, I think, and you can't make an argument. I mean, if 76% of Americans want to see more voices and more choices, and all of the polling points in that direction, what's the real defense for being like, nah, actually, we're not going to give you debates that have a few more voices added, a few more podiums? There really is no defense, and all they can do is ignore us and hope that we never build the kind of movement that it's going to take to open up these debates for real.
I thank you for that. And you know, you're mentioning Jill Stein and Gary Johnson, and you know, they were part of our debate in 2012. Larry King and I co-moderated. It was interesting to see that dynamic change briefly in 2016. They became more well known. In fact, they got the most exposure from their 2012 debate because of our presidential debate. Very cool. That's what the platform's for. But in 2016, they felt like they outgrew maybe free and equal elections, it felt like. And they felt like they could get into the Commission on Presidential Debates. So, you know, in order to get in, you can't participate in any other debate. And they did not participate in our debate in 2016, and they ended up debating just each other. And this is the repetitive cycle I've had with free and equal elections. 2008, when we created the first debate, it was crazy. Like, we were actually slated at Columbia University in New York. We had every media outlet, Eli, you could imagine throughout the United States, New York, confirmed. Like, our phones were ringing off the wall. Problem was, we couldn't get any candidate to participate, even Ralph Nader, and I worked as his national ballot access coordinator. But in any case, a week later, Ralph did agree to participate, you know, in a debate with Chuck Baldwin. But initially, in 2008, Bob Barr, the Libertarian, at that time, said he would only do a debate with Ralph Nader. And Ralph came back and said, I'll only do a debate if Bob Barr's there. And I sat back and I'm like, how does this make you guys any different from the Commission on Presidential Debates? I mean, it only allows 2 parties. And so Jill Stein and Gary Johnson was kind of like, oh, history again, a couple cycles later. So here we are in 20, and I'm saying this in detail because I want to forward this video and will to the Libertarian, Green Party, presidential candidates, Constitution, and more, so they can understand and see the Commission on Presidential Debates if I were in their position, I would not want my name to be on that platform. It is a fraudulent platform that cannot be trusted. And free and equal elections, I hope we've given you every reason to. I feel confident the team. I'm simply a visionary, and one day the platform will be handed off on a decentralized platform for the people. So I wanted to read something out loud. The second debate, it will take place after the final stop of the United We Stand tour on October 8th in Denver, Colorado. And with sufficient funding, interested partners to the host committee include, as you mentioned before, the National Association of Nonpartisan Reformers and its 40-plus dues-paying member organizations. The Bridge Alliance, that's an awesome cause there, and it's 150-plus member organizations and voices in the nonpartisan movement, including Unite America, IBN, Independent Voter Network, Represent Us, and many, many more. We do hope to work with the League of Women Voters. I've worked with them in a variety of states. I've had a call with the League of Women Voters US. Totally would love for one of those ladies to come co-moderate as an empowered woman in this arena. There's two of us, so I hope that happens. So what I wanted to say to the candidates that will be invited this fall at our October 8th debate, see it as more of an idea, an independent movement. It's bigger than a debate. You're a part of something that's bigger than any one person, any one Joe Jorgensen, any one Howie Hawkins, any one Don Blankenship, and all of the 18 candidates, and really hundreds of, really over 1,000 presidential candidates that filed to run earlier this year. So I really do see it being quite possible that we get that support, but we're going to move forward with the debate no matter, Eli, and we're ready. We're ready. We are a well-oiled machine here at Free and Equal Elections. Open the debates, working with you. I was like, has this guy done this for a couple of decades already? So you were just that good. So I really hope we can work together and take it to a whole nother level. But we're going to debate. We're going to elevate the debate no matter. Because Eli, there's no other direction to go in. There just isn't. There's no other direction. So thank you so much. We're getting close to wrapping up. We're going to have our sessions be around 30, 40 minutes. Did you have any final words, Eli, you wanted to for our audience? I see a question, actually. I like to put in questions from the audience. Liberty Bell, what can the average person do for nonpartisan election reform? Let's answer. That's a great question. Thank you.
I think it starts with seeing your own power to actually force change. And the example I gave before of Katie Fahey, it was in Michigan. Her movement in Michigan to stop gerrymandering started with a random Facebook post where she asked, like, this isn't something I'd love to take on. Is anyone interested? And it sparked this outcry of people who were like, yeah, count me in. And she was like, all right, I actually have to Google, like, how do you end gerrymandering? Because she didn't have a clue, but it was working with all of these different people from all these different walks of life. Katie, in particular, has a gift for seeing what people's individual contributions could be. But she took people who knew woodworking and had them making from scratch, making clipboards out of wood to cut down costs of this operation. And that was, she found, whatever people's talents were and brought them in. I think I'm finding that with Open the Debates, the money question, like us having funding, is one of these chicken and egg things, because there's this grassroots outpouring, especially right now. There's so many people that want to get involved and I don't have the time to put into, I think we should do a session where we're just talking about, we should probably do a live session of like, how are we going to open up these debates in 2020, and how can we get organized across the political spectrum, not for Joe Jorgensen, not for Howie Hawkins, not for any one of these parties or candidates. That's not the approach that's going to win. The approach that's going to break through is taking a look at this deep, deep need and finding a way to bring people together across these issues, across the partisan divides, to get there. And I think so after Katie Fahey did this successfully in Michigan, she also had to, their organizations had to fight to all the challenges that came, and it's still an ongoing battle. She created an organization called The People, and you can check it out at thepeople.org. But basically, she wanted to take everything that she learned from that struggle in Michigan and help. I think there are all sorts of similar efforts going on where people want to make a difference. They're not quite sure how. Getting that grassroots energy plugged in a way that can break through and win, working together and finding what our talents are, whatever individual contributions we might make. When we pool those contributions together, that's I think where we can start to break through. And I think having something like an alternative debate is also a really important piece of it, because we're not just going to be begging the Commission on Presidential Debates to do their thing. I think one of the things that I'm trying to do right now, and I've been doing it for too many years, is begging the League of Women Voters to say, hey, step back up to the plate here. We need you. The United States of America needs the League of Women Voters as an example of a truly nonpartisan organization that has a history and of running fair-minded presidential debates. They have a track record of running fair-minded debates at the local level. They're one of these groups that should be taking leadership. And I think everybody out there who's interested in this issue, if you have not read their statement from 1988, it is must-read material. You have to read this. It's them talking about the Commission on Presidential Debates perpetrating a fraud, and the League of Women Voters said they didn't want to contribute to the hoodwinking of the American public. That's exactly what's been going on for the last couple of decades here, the last 3 decades plus. It's the hoodwinking of the American public. And I think when we have the numbers, which we do, we have, like, the people are with us, we have to get organized. And so I think there's plenty of things for you to do to be part of getting organized with us. And so definitely plug in with us. We would love to connect and figure out ways that we can be helpful together. And sort of, as we pull these organizations, the Bridge Alliance representing, these 100+ organizations also across the political spectrum, also really focused on, like, how do we solve the issue of healthy self-government in a way that works for all of us and bridge these divides. They represent the 40% of US voters who consider themselves political independents now, by far bigger than either the Democrats or Republicans. Super majorities of people asking for opening up the political system to more voices, more choices, and to make it easier for third-party candidates to win. 3/4 of the country, or something close to that, thinks that we need a major third party in the country. The numbers are there. I think it's just about getting organized together.
And I think that, isn't it the case that most voters, see themselves as independents rather than DNR, maybe even party? When I see the candidates of parties, I see beyond party lines, and I see them for the individuals that they are. And just to kind of, wrap up in the question that Eli answered so well, it's all going to go on a blockchain ledger, Liberty Bell. Imagine a ledger where we can see what's real and what isn't real. All the ideas together, where you can see all the people running for Congress starting in 2022. I think Congress is making it really easy, a lot easier to replace them in 2022. So if I'm going to give Congress an A+ on anything, it's them making it really easy to replace all of them. Thank you, Congress, so much. I mean, they are doing such a terrible job. I mean, it's kind of scary. I'm going to stay focused on the bright light and the fix and rise above that, because that is not an energy field I want to be anywhere near. And so when we put all of these candidates that I foresee will be rising and running, hundreds, if not thousands, will come, targeting Congress first in a ledger, and we take back Congress, we're going to see the power shift from the federal to the state, local level. And there's nothing stopping the possibility of blockchain voting that is transforming our electoral system and bringing about truly political transparency. And so I see that happening. There's more details on our website at freeandequal.org. But I want to know where Eli's website is. Where can we find more information with Open the Debates, Eli?
Yeah, openthedebates.org. And you can find us on Facebook and Twitter, Open the Debates.
Beautiful. Well, Eli, Liberty wrote back, thanks for the info. League of Women Voters and the Bridge Alliance might be a good place to start. And definitely we urge them and Nanner, as you mentioned, to join our debate this fall. I want to do a shout out to Chad Peace for being a huge connector with those organizations. And I look forward to being a part of Nanner at whatever capacity and giving back to help elevate that beautiful cause. Eli, we saw them in Colorado last fall, the Nanner first annual conference. I have never seen anything like that. I'm so glad I went, and that's where I got to meet you in person. So thanks to Chad and Jonas and that whole team for making that a reality with Nanner. And we look forward to building the relationships through this fall and the coming years, decades, whatnot. So Eli Beckerman of Open the Debate, such a pleasure. Much love to you, and appreciate you putting your heart, soul, and caring so much about our country. When more people like you rise, and they will, that's when we're going to bring about peace, love, and harmony. We have to, throughout the U.S. and the world. So thank you for joining us, and I'll see you maybe this fall, but one way or another. I look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks for all you do.
Likewise.